vast plethora.
A what? A plethora
of topics amassing these days that I want to discuss here on the Introversion Podcast. But the danger, of course, is if I try to address them all at once, this will end up being a 3-hour plus episode, which people will scoff at, like,
how dare you?
How dare you make such a long episode?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Indeed, you don't have the 3 hours plus to watch it, and I don't have the 6 hours plus to make it. Hence, so that this can be a win-win for all of us, I will try to keep this short and sweet as best I can, despite the fact there is so much for me to say today. So, where to begin? How about this midterm election we just had this past week? At least in the media circles I've been making my rounds in. And no, I'm not talking about Fox News. I don't watch that anymore. I'm talking about the likes of Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire crew, Dave Rubin, Steven Crowder, Tulsi Gabbard, Tom Woods, hell, even Joe Rogan and Bill Maher. I kept hearing for weeks now about the red wave. Basically the notion that things have gotten so bad in this country with crippling inflation, soaring gas prices, a burgeoning energy crisis, the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle, the brink of World War III with Russia, brain-dead Biden.
I think that Elon Musk's cooperation and/or technical
Kamala declaring our new long-standing alliance with North Korea.
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. And it is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
Not to mention all the awful pandemic policies that ruined so many lives on so many levels.
All right, just be advised that unless you have your vaccination cards, all right, you cannot patronize this restaurant, all right? This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The grossly unnecessary mandates that were pushed on all of us. And now as the truth has begun emerging about the inefficacy of jabs and masks and lockdowns, they say, amnesty. Let's forget about what they did and just move on, as if all is hunky-dory. Plus all the woke shit. Oh, the woke shit. Let's lop off children's sex organs and raise them in a state of gender confusion while patting ourselves on the back for being trans-inclusive and gender-affirming. Oh, the language, the power of language that is used to make up mean down and down mean up. Truly a bizarre world we're living in these days, but more on that later. Seems like we were ready and due for a referendum on blue, quote-unquote, leadership, basically seeming like not just hardcore Republicans, but independent voters and, well, just reasonable, normal Americans would take this moment to say, hey, we're not cool with America's downward trajectory. And yet, Tuesday came and went with a whimper. Far more of a red trickle than a red wave. Thing is, I can't say I'm all that surprised. And also, kind of getting to the bigger point of what I want to talk about today, I can't say that I even care all that much about these various political outcomes, which isn't to say I don't think these outcomes will affect me directly. Yes, most likely some of these outcomes will indeed affect me adversely. Like, for example, the same power structures here in PA, in Philadelphia specifically, remain intact. And if Fauci utters some bullshit about virus variant, whatever, I would not be surprised if the local authorities go full authoritarian yet again and demand you to stay at home, sanitize your door handles, don your useless masks everywhere you go, if you even are allowed to go out at all, and get jabbed and boosted with whatever Pfizer is selling. And I reckon most Philly residents would do as instructed, follow every order, sacrifice themselves for, quote unquote, the greater good, needlessly, yet again, and pat themselves on their backs for their virtue. Yeah, I would not be surprised by any of this, as many haven't learned a goddamn thing. But me, I've learned a lot, mostly in 2020, but continuing on into 2021. I've learned to not waste my time trying to convince people of anything, to wake them up. I've learned for the most part that seeking truth and following that up by sharing those learned truths with others is a colossal waste of my time and energy. No matter how well researched I am, no matter how pristine my presentation is, truly an exercise in abject futility. Basically because they didn't want to hear anything from me. In fact, we couldn't even engage in meaningful debate most of the time in order to mutually arrive at what really is true. No, I might have started out that way for 2 seconds, but would quickly devolve into one of these other parties hurling ad hominem attacks at me. Ah, the good old ad hominem attack. If you cannot adequately defend your ideas, just insult your opponent and do so loudly, and find comfort in your allies cheering you on as you do so. All in a mutual circle jerk of virtue. It's funny to me, as I'm saying all these things, I'm realizing I'm making a lot of little callbacks to specific episodes I've recorded this past couple of years. Like, Can We Talk? Where an old coworker friend unfriended me on Facebook because he insisted that every parent should just be given free baby formula by the government. And I dared to ask, okay, well, how are we going to pay for that? And also, where do we draw the line on the government giving people, quote unquote, free stuff all the time? Especially in this era of god-awful inflation, where they keep printing money and each dollar becomes more and more worthless every day. But yeah, whether you go way back to my 2020 episodes, like election week, where I made all these predictions that ultimately came true in 2021, most notably the vax mandates and just exactly how they would carry that out, I called it. Or even more recently, with the last few episodes I've recorded, especially good lies. There's somewhat of an implicit recurring theme in my latest episodes that I feel have been leading up to this episode. And I feel like this episode is somewhat of a kickoff, sort of a beginning of a new series that will fall under this umbrella of the title of this episode, Black Pills Matter. So what exactly do I mean when I say Black Pills Matter? Of course, it's a bit incendiary, a bit playful. I personally laughed out loud when I thought of the title the other day. But thing is, as I'm kicking off this new series of sorts, I don't even want to delve into the full explanation of black pill here and now, because it would first require me explaining what the blue pill is, and then the red pill, and then black pill. Trust me, I will explain all of that to the uninitiated in the near future. But for the time being, I wanted to just talk briefly about the confluence of recent events that has led me to where I am today. It's been a series of things, some good, some bad, although really, I'm not thinking too much about the notions of good or bad lately, but more so just what is or isn't. Lately, I've felt another wave of Neo-like vision, where I can see all the code in the matrix and how it all interconnects. It is empowering when you enter into this mode because you feel such clarity. Again, good and bad are not the right terms to use during these phases, because a lot of the clarity is seeing genuinely bad things for what they are. So, is it good to see bad things clearly? Maybe by me raising that question, this helps solidify my point about not getting hung up on good or bad, but instead seeing clearly what is versus what isn't. In the past couple of weeks, I've seen a close friendship of nearly 20 years dissolve within a few text messages. Good? Bad? Or simply, it is what it is. Also, I've had the joy of watching a couple very disturbing films. One, Midsommar, this crazy-ass film essentially about ancient cult-like rituals in Sweden. And the other is Orgasm Inc., this documentary on Netflix about, well, here's the official description. A sexual wellness company gains fame and followers for its practice of orgasmic meditation until members come forward with disturbing allegations. But on a more positive note, I also just watched and enjoyed Weird, the Al Yankovic story, which I highly recommend. It was hilarious and also inspiring, especially for me, since I've made my living as a creative professional and yet was discouraged from pursuing this sort of path from a young age. Also, for those of you who've been seeing my tweets, if you're not following yet, go follow. I am Introversion on Elon's new Twitter. I've been mentioning about Love is Blind Season 3, and how, yes, I will be doing an episode about that. Ideally this week, because the thoughts and observations I have are infinite. So I simply must express at least some of those thoughts. So stay tuned, and of course, hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed here to the Introversion YouTube channel. Anyway, it may seem to you that the midterm election results, my newly demised friendship, the Midsommar film, the Orgasm Inc. documentary, Weird, the Al Yankovic story, and Love is Blind Season 3 are all completely unrelated to this whole black pill thing, right? But I can assure you, they have all contributed to me recording this today and kicking off this new Black Pill series. And really, Black Pill mentality that I am moving forward with. The thing is, though, for those of you who are familiar with the term Black Pill, you know it typically gets a bad rap. Basically, that it is not a good thing by any means. In fact, I would wager that people describe it as a form of depression or just full-on nihilism, or alternatively, a cop-out, a checking out of life because life sucks. While there may be some truth to those rather lazy or one-dimensional definitions, in the coming weeks, I will be making the case for the black pill, or perhaps redefining it in a more optimal light. Hell, if we can redefine what is a woman...
How do I know if I'm a woman? You know,
That's a great question.
Surely we can redefine black pill. And that is what I intend to do. Not today, but in the coming weeks, as I gather my thoughts and begin to share my recent clarity with you, the people.
Back to you, the people.
I hope this has been enlightening for you.
Hey, glad you're here. If you've enjoyed any aspect of today's episode, I ask that you click like on this video. And if you'd like to see more in the future, hit that big fat juicy red subscribe button and click the little bell icon next to it in order to receive a notification as soon as new episodes are posted. And if you're not actually on YouTube right now, but are watching on Spotify or listening on Apple, please leave a 5-star rating. It only takes a second, and it's a free way of supporting this podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, there are plenty of ways to do so. You can post a comment on this video on YouTube. You can email me at podcast@introversion.com. Or you can connect on social media. I'm fairly active on Twitter and Instagram as I am Introversion. And last, but certainly not least, be sure to check out the brand new and ever-evolving Introversion.com, where in addition to the podcast episodes, I am posting all kinds of interestingness and food for thought on a nearly daily basis. So yeah, take a break from Mark Zuckerberg's watchful eye and go actually bookmark an independent website, like back in the day.
Before the dark times,
before the Empire.
It's a harsh world out there, but keep calm and carry on, my friend. I will always be here at Introversion.com, actively introspecting in order to live my best life, and encouraging you and others to do so as well. Until next time.
All done. If you survive, please come again.